Hello and welcome back to our podcast.
Hello,
We've got Chris with us in-house, which is really good because this will happen every now and then. He does live in the same town
town.
as me, and we're going to go through a little bit about
About the realization of the reality that we live in, the reality that we constantly live in, we're happy to be in, without realizing that there's more outside the box, I guess you could say.
the reality that we're living in. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this episode. Chris is going to come in and talk about just the recent experiences that have gone on, and that might be in your realm as well. And I'll see if it's been in mine too. And I'm going to come in and pipe in a few questions, maybe. So let's see how we go. So this is welcome to the heart of it. Go.
So, the reality that we live in is what we're born into. We work, we entertain ourselves, we find sports and entertainment and what's on the TV and stuff like this, and we do that, and we're happy to do that, and on weekends we might go camping and stuff like this, but we generally do what everybody else is doing. You know, friends of mine are into football, so let's get into football, and to be the type of person that have surrounded by friends that are into their famous TV shows, into their their football team, their cricket team, or whatever, into sports, into motorbike riding or whatever like this. Anything outside of that is something that has to be reinvented. Somebody comes to you, hey, I'm going to go skydiving. Never been skydiving before, so oh, gee, that's
Out of the
different.
box.
I don't, yeah, it's outside of your box sort of thing. And before you know, you get to a certain age where you notice that around you that everyone, there's people that are like this that can't sort of get away from or have a conversation other than their work or their sport or the hobbies that they're into, that their friends are into the same hobbies because you sort of stick and.
And the television shows that they watch.
And the television shows they watch, oh, did you see this and did you see that? And it's constant. It's all the time. It's day by day. They're still listening to the same 80s style music. There's no advancement sort of thing. And that's great. That's fine. They're happy. They're happy to do that.
So this is the model
Uh,
model that we're born into.
Model that we're born into, that we're molded into, that we're programmed into without realizing it, because we're happy, we keep ourselves happy. There's enough entertainment to keep us because we know no different. We haven't stepped outside of the box to discover other things. A great one to do that is to turn off the TV. People say, "I don't watch TV anymore," and everything like this. And the first reaction you'll get is, "Oh, I just don't believe everything on the internet." Um, but people do. People believe a lot of things that they see on TV, which is very limited, and people believe a lot of things that they see on the internet. The difference there is that the internet has enabled them to get outside of the box, whether they're going down a rabbit hole of something that's not true or not, but they're outside of the box of the reality that's molded them into watching the TV, watching programs,
Because
watching
it's
documentaries that only, the government wants us to watch and all that sort of stuff. You tend to become broad-minded. Your hobbies can change, your attitudes can change, your way of thinking can change just through stepping outside of that box. And
So that's like
you
listening to
know,
this podcast as well. People are coming in and researching something that they wouldn't find on television. Well, you can search on YouTube and find that. But that, and you can watch things through the television that are on the internet as well if you've got a smart television. But otherwise, you're going onto your phone rather than going out and seeking workshops with people, which you can do as well. But there's just a lot more information out there on the internet, which allows you to broaden and expand who you are.
that's right. And you know, to say that, oh, you can't believe everything that you see on TV because we're all programmed, the TV only wants to show us what they think we want to hear, and
That
that's how
was
it's
the
been all the time.
yes.
You know, even our history, uh, the history that we've grown up into believe is what only a small amount of what is actually out there, but it's to, think that we know a lot about history, but we really don't. And the internet gives you that possibilities. Conversations gives you that possibilities. I found it over Christmas time a little bit frustrating that I found it hard to have a conversation outside of a sports conversation, outside of the latest TV conversation, outside of what they know world. Um, I wanted to have conversation about other things, like even my projects that I'm doing. But because I'm doing this particular project, they know nothing about it or anything like this, so
They can't relate to it.
can't relate to it. So you'll find that people will come out with jokes, pick out the best thing with jokes, and you're thinking you're having here's a conversation here. I'm going to have a conversation about this, that, and the inquiry, and they pick something out of that, and then turn it into a joke, and it's just full on joke to joke, and that's great. That's laughing and everything like this, but when you keep doing that, you come to and you come to a realization that that's all they know. They can't really have a conversation about something that they don't know. It might be someone that's never built anything with wood before or anything like this. I'll say, how's your project going and all this sort of stuff. Oh yeah, it's going great. And how much further have you gotten? Oh well, I've managed to build this and I've managed to build that. Oh yeah, why don't you do this then? Oh, that'll be a joke. Oh, you know, twist it around, turn something in because I don't really know I've gotten into this conversation. I've just been polite and now I'm
Mm.
continuing with it. I better chuck in a joke because I can't really continue it any further.
And
I'm
this is
not really interested.
Well, this is where, when you're in that conversation and you do have like a 5D consciousness and an expanded mind and a lot more information, and wanting to have those connected conversations, I think is also what you're talking about. Is that normally, or usually, we will shrink. We will shrink ourselves into that conversation or that environment that we're in because that's what we've done our whole lives, and so we're being made to shrink and stay small and not expand past that conversation and not expand ourselves by finding that information. Of course, now we can just Google it, and lots of people don't necessarily like that either. Just Google it, and they're like, "Oh, you're a Google champion," but it's it's also about recognizing that you don't need to shrink, that you don't need to stay small. And so what Chris is also talking about is that you step away and you look at it from a bird's eye point of view, that this person can't articulate more than what's there. And you might be saying to myself, well, I really can't stay in this environment anymore. So I've just got to step out for that moment in time. And so you can excuse yourself from that so that you can actually have the mental stimulation and conversations that you do need.
Yes, it's really hard to stay in there as you evolve and you step out of the box and stuff like this. As you evolved, everyone else around you hasn't. Um, that becomes a task in dealing with and accepting that this is how it's just going to be, all the time until you start meeting people that I want not necessarily on your level, but understand, where you're coming from and on that other conversations outside of the normal realm that you've programmed yourself into having into today's society. This the term stepping outside of the box can refer to many, 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 many things. Whatever you do, whatever you see, any situation, whatever you're doing, whatever you want to do, or whatever, step outside of yourself and view yourself doing that. As in, it's another person. You're seeing another person doing it. Sometimes you can have a total different view of the outcome by seeing that. And concentrate on that's just another person. That's me. Oh, well, I didn't look at it that way. Yeah, okay. You might see it from how other people may see it. And it becomes a great learning thing to be able to step outside the box and self-awareness, self-learning, self-adapting to your environment, situations.
So that's also called stepping outside yourself as the third person. So you're the third person viewing yourself having a conversation with someone. And the other thing to go back to that you were talking about as well is when you're having that conversation with someone, not the one that's limited, but the more expanded one of the people that understands you, is alignment. So that's about aligning yourself with the people who are around you who raise up to your frequency, they raise up to your vibration. And so we call that alignment, friendships and relationships. And this is what people also call like their soul friendships and their soul relationships and their soul family, which can go, a totally different spiritual way when you're looking at it. But it's when we're in alignment with ourselves that we then attract those conversations, those people, or we start to see them in our circles. So we have our circles of influence, and there's three circles of influence: your inner circle, your outer circle, and then your outer circle. And those outer circles is usually the friends of friends or acquaintances that we know. Our inner circles, usually the people that we let in, which is usually family, close friends. And then, it's our a related family or our friends that we've created in that second circle. And this is usually where we find our information. We don't always get that information on our inner circle, even though we'd like to. It's usually always in that middle circle. And realistically, the information is also very much in your inner circle, but sometimes we're too afraid to actually go there. So, and we can't necessarily align ourselves with those people. As Chris was saying, it's about that acceptance that, this person is at this level and they're not necessarily going to raise with you. And you could be related to them, you could be married to them, you could be in a relationship with them. But it's about you understanding and that acceptance of, well, that's not necessarily going to meet me where I need it. So I'm going to look at my next circle and see if I've got those alignments in there.
Yes, and over time, things will start to change. Not how it changes is influence. So, you know, going through what I've been going through lately, one thing I have noticed, because it's such a conscious thing that happens also consciously that we're unaware of, that happens too. Um, I find myself, um, I find myself now people are listening more. Um, uh, it's hard to explain, but without degrading or anything like this, I'd bring up conversations. Oh, and I'd brush it off and not want to know about it and stuff like this. For some unknown reason now, when I talk about things to some people now that would want to brush it off, are actually sitting back and listening like as if I'd know kind of thing.
Like what person's doing right now. They're listening to you now.
So none of this happened. Nothing happens overnight. When you start realizing this and start wanting to be like this, you subconsciously, your friends around you are going to see you differently over time to the point where they subconsciously turn around and start listening to you and start realizing, well, this is how he's going or whatever over time, rather than just shove something in their face. Um, I've had friends tell me, oh gosh, I remember you used to be so, you know, so quiet, you wouldn't say anything. Now you just come out with all this stuff and now they're dealing with it. And now they come over it and now they're listening and it's strange. Nothing happens overnight, but
It's evolvement.
it's
They're
evolving.
evolving a little more. And so there is some, news that we get in life, which could be significantly about your health or a change in situation. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, health thing. Um, you can get a big health scare that you can be freaked out over because you know nothing else about it other than what you've heard from society around you about this particular thing. And for example, a heart CT scan might come up with something. Oh gosh, I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to go through that. You freak out over it and everything like this because you've heard everybody else around you in society and everything like this
Shape you.
how dramatic this is and stuff like this. So there's a story I'd like to tell, if I may, about a recent time when a friend of mine came to me and said I've had three dreams and in those three dreams, friends of mine have had heart attacks and they've ended up having heart attacks and you're the fourth person, but at this time I've decided to come around and tell you about it. How you going? You look pretty well and pretty fit, but I'm just letting you know that I had a dream about you the other night that you'd had a heart attack. And I'm going, oh wow, okay, crikey. So
Information.
so I took that on, yeah, as information, but it prompted me to go and make it a doctor's appointment, seen the doctor, and had it a CT scan, and realised that I had a high score, severe score of calcium build up around my heart. So, straight away referred to a cardiologist and everything like this. So when that happens, oh, the shock, oh my gosh, I'm at the stage, it's severe, I've got to say, well, I'm going to have this happen, going to have that, am I going to be split open, all this you don't know, but you hear about all these things. Oh, why'd that happen to me? Rah, 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 rah. And you freak out. But then that may last a day or 2 or 3 days. And then I come to the realization, well, how fantastic is this? This is the best thing that I'm so lucky that this guy
Yeah.
managed to have these dreams, managed to tell me about it, managed to make me go ahead and do what I do to find out what's happening. That's like a miracle, that's like fantastic and wow. I straight away changed my diet because I, had a shit diet and everything like this. I still haven't seen the cardiologist yet because it's Christmas and all this has happened in the last, um, month or
Week.
so. And but my attitude towards it completely turned around because of how great and how fantastic, all this is, and all these things that I thought was going to happen isn't really going to happen like that at all with the condition that I've got. But yeah, the miracle of it was like a spiritual miracle for this guy to have these dreams, and it just so happened that this guy had had a heart attack himself, and he was in hospital. They did all the checkups and everything. He's fine and everything like this, no worries. And then he said, "Oh, I'm starting to feel it again." So they did it all. Boom, he'd had a heart attack, and then came back. They brought him back. It was like as if, and these dreams happen after that. So it's like as if he went out to it, asked whether he wanted to, come back and had this power. He's gone yes, and come back, and now he's able to do this.
Which is unconsciously that happens until they consciously are aware of it. And what actually happened there with Chris and his person that came to him with the information is that sometimes we get this thought and we have that dream and we brush it off in conversation or we don't act on it. And what he has decided to do is act on it. He may not have acted on the other dreams because he might have thought, waved it off as well
Yeah.
until he became aware that, oh my goodness, that person actually did have a heart attack and they did, whatever happened to them. And he didn't want to take that risk anymore because he then knew that his information was evidence. And so he's gathered enough evidence from 2 or 3 other people that it's happened to, plus himself, to be able to go, well, maybe I'm that person that lets people know before they know. And which is a great gift to have. They don't necessarily realize that, but now Chris can also give him that information as well.
Oh yes. I've seen him since, and so encouraged him to not be afraid of what's happening and accept what's happening because it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I so much appreciate him for coming to tell me, for me being the one that he's decided to finally tell. And like to be able to have that gift as how frustrating it must be for him. He doesn't like to do it. He doesn't like having another dream. Oh gosh, I had another dream. It's such and such had a heart attack. That'd be a horrible thing. But if you turn it around and imagine the beauty of that power, so I've turned all this depression around and horribleness around, turned around happiness and gratefulness because I was told, however I was told, however I was brought to my attention. And
And
it brings a whole lot of other things to attention, like procrastination.
oh yeah.
And that's a big one, that's a whole new conversation. But just to tip it off, I was eating crap food because I have a project, so I was eating crap food and everything like this. And this was going on for a couple of years, and although I had, healthy juices and liver, go swimming every morning and stuff like this, but the intake was crap. And that could have kept going, And so I procrastinated in that. At the back of your head, I've got to eat healthy and everything like this. Oh, but I'll just, have another toasted sandwich or whatever. Procrastinating that. So that was another lesson learned that you can procrastinate in something that you're not aware of until it can be too late. I was gifted enough to have a friend come and tell me about the dream, but if he hadn't, I would have kept going with this takeaway, no, been procrastinating and everything like this for this to build up to end up having a heart attack. That's why it's at a severe state now. And so it's important not to procrastinate. Listen to your intuition, yourself, your higher self that's telling you, "Hey, look, man, you got to stop this. This is crap. You got to stop, but you're going to keep doing it." I was lucky for this guy to come along and tell me, and who knows where I would have been in another year's time. So yeah,
So procrastination is just another pause that you are, doing rebellion pretty much against yourself because you probably have a bit of a rebellious nature. And even though you know the right things to do or the right signs or listening to yourself, you're not listening to yourself because you have ended up procrastinating. So if you do listen to yourself in that first time and you act on it, you then start trusting what comes into your mind then goes into your body. So it's called embodiment. And then you actually, when you act on that and go, okay, I am going to give up. I am going to start to make healthy choices, even if it's one thing at a time that I change. And eventually I get there in, a certain matter of time, whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months. You don't want to take too long to make that change, but you've acted on it. And when you act on it, your mind and thoughts will actually start to align more. And so you'll make those healthy choices rather than you'll think of, oh, I really want to take away toasty. And then you'll go, but I'm going to have, a sardine and avocado on toast scenario or on sourdough,
yeah.
and make a different conscious choice because you're aware of more information and you're trusting yourself.
And when you do that, you think, oh, this is great. Well, these avocado sandwiches are really great.
And the procrastinating stops because if you are a procrastinator, it becomes a habit. And so when you start acting on that decision about the health, you stop procrastinating about it. It's not taking up all this mind space, but also you might be procrastinating about doing exercise, which is also part of that health. And so it usually shifts. So it's about looking where all these what I call procrastination loops are. And you have to catch yourself, be aware that you are doing that, and then act on it.
Act on it and don't kick yourself over not doing it. I could be going, oh, you idiot. If you hadn't have stopped eating all that takeaway stuff, you wouldn't have even had anywhere near as that now. No, forgive yourself.
And the thing is, you enjoyed it, right? While you were having all that, food that wasn't necessarily good for you, you were indulging, you were enjoying it, and it's okay that you were. So it isn't about beating yourself up.
No,
It is about forgiving.
forgive yourself for doing it. You know you're not going to do it again.
That's
Going to listen to it, and also when we find ourselves doing a habit, realize that a habit isn't really a habit. It's a choice that you choose to keep doing.
hmm,
A
because
habit,
you find value.
if anything, a habit is something that you do without realizing you're doing it
Yeah.
until someone pulls you up and to, well, why do I keep doing it? Well, why do you keep doing it? I don't know. I just keep doing it. I won't do it again. But when procrastination is a type is it really a form of habit because you're aware of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you,
And then
you
you can.
choose to be in that habit. Oh no, I keep doing it all the time. I know I shouldn't, but it's just a habit. No, you just keep choosing to do it.
When Chris says I shouldn't do it, the word should means I feel guilty for. So I feel guilty for doing this habit that I know I shouldn't be doing. So you're unconsciously consciously aware until you become there. And the habit forming is it's just another form of procrastination and vice versa. However, this is where we're going to actually end our conversation on. We do hope that you have followed along. If there's someone that you'd like to share this with or subscribe to the channel, please do and share to someone who might benefit from it. We appreciate your listening and we hope you listen to our next episode that may or may not be together, probably going to be online, and we'll go from there. So, Chris, anything else to add?
No, I just think it's great to get listen to these things and get a different view, a different aspect that can be related to you to the same way you have been, variations or whatever. Yeah. Sometimes what we've been talking about is a wake up call. Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to agree with whatever, but there's things in there that you will go, oh yeah, yeah, I should be more. Oh, the habit or the procrastination. Some people just aren't aware of it. That's fine.
And so we'd love your feedback. So give us some feedback as well. You know how to do it. And until next time, thank you very much.
Cheers.